Hello, my gorgeous makeup loving friends. We have seen makeup brands come and go, some for better and some most definitely for worse. And I wanted to talk about the makeup brands that I desperately wish would make a resurrection, that I really feel that their demise was not warranted. So if you want to see what I think about that, then do please keep on watching. The first brand that I want to talk about is a little indie brand that was based in the UK. Now, we don't get to see many indie brands in Europe, so it's really nice when they actually get a little bit of recognition. And this brand was really quite big around 2018, 2019. I saw them an awful lot on, say, for instance, Angelica Nickfist's YouTube channel. She really promoted them to quite a large degree. And I feel like they really kind of took off from there. They even had a collaboration at one point with another content creator called Paulina. In case you haven't guessed what the brand is, it's Blush Tribe. Yeah, so Blush Tribe did lots of very, very colourful palettes. They had the Hasina palette. They even had a follow-up to that, which was the Hasina 2. There was the Paulina palette, and they were very bright, colourful, interesting palettes. For me, when I think about Blush Tribe, it's very much a little bit sentimental because this was when I was starting off kind of experimenting a little bit more with colourful makeup. So they were one of the first ones I really tried because Angelica Nickfist just kept talking about them and I was like, okay, well, I will give it a go. So I ended up getting them, and one of the palettes that I got, I think it was the Hasina 2, there was a black in it, and my goodness, was it pigmented, and it just had smashed in delivery, and I was opening it on my couch and the black pigment just went everywhere. It took me so long to clean it out, but I told the owners about this and they were so lovely, and they even sent me a replacement, which was just so kind. I found their customer service to be really good, and that's part of why I miss that. Again, for me, a big chunk of this is actually sentimental. It's a big chunk of my very early kind of makeup journey, and I loved that they were relatively affordable. Actually, I think you could get most palettes for like £25, like that sort of a ballpark, and the pigmentation was very good. Now, what kind of went wrong was that, as far as I understand, because I've tried to look this up, but it's very hard to find information, people got a little bit annoyed that it was private label. But here's the thing, like basically no indie brands, bar a handful, make their own palettes. Like, they don't have their own labs. There's no money for that. So it felt like a little bit of an unfair accusation to throw at them. There was some other things that collaboration that I talked about earlier, the Paulina collaboration, initially she was like really happy to talk about it, and then eventually she kind of stepped back and said, I no longer support Blush Tribe. So something happened, and again, I've tried to find it online. I couldn't find any information on it. So it's a big question mark as to exactly what happened there. But from there, we started to see that Blush Tribe started to plummet. And if we remember, Corona happened. What times. And people weren't wearing makeup as much. It was way more difficult to get anybody to buy colourful makeup. So they really started to feel the burn in that particular instance. And actually they decided that they were going to rebrand. So as part of the rebrand, they actually changed their name to My Ali Beauty, MYALI. So this is a little bit of a complicated one. So they had to sell on all of their stock that had the Blush Tribe branding on it. That was where a big chunk of the makeup that they had was. And they had a big sale. I remember even getting like some pigments, etc. during that. And even some like brushes that I'm looking at over there, like that are just in front of me. But it seems that My Ali didn't do great. I remember they came out with maybe 5 eyeshadow palettes, and then that closed less than a year later. And as far as I remember, the owner wasn't happy or didn't want to sell on the name My Ali Beauty, but was happy to keep on the domain. So it was all quite strange as to what actually happened there. So part of why I want that to come back, or would love that to come back, is A, I love indie brands. B, I love seeing any indie brands in Europe. I think it's really great. From what I remember, it was a business that was owned by a person of colour. I absolutely love that. And I have a lot of sentimental memories associated with these. I did find them to be really fun palettes. They were among my favourite at one point. Now I obviously have way more, but I thought they were really fun colour stories at the time. So I would love to see that come back. The next one that I'm going to talk about, and it may come as a little bit of a shock because it was a celebrity brand. Yeah, usually celebrity brands I'm not that interested in unless you're talking about, you know, Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty, in which case, love that, absolutely spectacular. But this was a brand that came from actually a singer as part of a girl band. And if you're around Ireland and the UK, you'll probably have a little bit of an idea of who I'm talking about. The beautiful Nicola Roberts from Girls Aloud came out with her own brand, which was called Dainty Dolls. And part of that came from, she's very pale, as most redheads are, and she was finding it very difficult to find makeup, particularly foundations, etc., that would actually match her skin tone. You've to remember that when this brand came out, Fenty was not a thing. Inclusivity was not a thing. So she really said, hey, I want to do something on that. And that's where the brand Dainty Doll actually came from. And what I think was so great about that was they were thinking about the fact that redheads, for example, have a very different undertone. It's a little bit more tricky to get foundations right. The big issue I often see with redheads is trying to get things like brow pencils. They'll usually make you go for like an ashy brown, and then that looks really, really strange. So most makeup brands are not very inclusive around that or very aware of that. Some are better than others now, but at the time it was definitely a massive, massive issue. However, part of the problem with having a demographic of redheads is, depending upon where you are, there's a very small percentage. Scotland has the highest percentage of redheads, it's 14%. Ireland has the next highest at 13%. So when you're looking at that, and that's including like all age groups, etc., you're not looking at a massive demographic here of people that you could potentially sell to. So although it started off with a really, really great idea, it probably needed to broaden beyond that. And ultimately the brand died. I would have loved to have seen that actually kind of go further. And I think it would have more of a kind of a comeback nowadays, because again, we are going towards that inclusivity. And if they really started to have things that were tailored for redheads, like whether it's mascara that isn't super, super black, or it was like golden or brown or something, that could be really interesting, and then kind of merge beyond that. I think that was quite sad because she did seem to be really, really into it, and it was a sort of a passion project for her, and it's really sad to see anyone's passion project die. So for me, that's definitely one I would love to see come back. This next brand is again owned by another influencer, but nothing to do with music. They actually started off on YouTube, and this was a brand that really actually took off along with YouTubers. They were one of the very first brands to actually do a really good affiliate program along with Sigma. You probably know who I'm talking about. This was Makeup Geek, which was started by Marlene Estelle, and they were just really fun. They had some really interesting colours. I know I got like the electric bundle from them at one point. It was like a neon-y type thing, and I believe there was like 10 shades. And I remember it came with like a holographic Makeup Geek like travel makeup bag and a beautiful little note kind of saying like, oh, I really appreciate it, etc. And it was those little kind of sweet touches that kind of gets my little heart. I thought that was really, really nice. And again, we see a brand that's run by a person who has a genuine passion and an interest in it. She seemed to really look after the people who collaborated with her, who used her affiliate codes. And she's generally a person in the makeup community that a lot of people have a massive amount of respect for. Of course, if you've been following drama, you have a general idea of what went wrong for Makeup Geek. It was kind of a perfect storm of several different things. She was very friendly with Jaclyn Hill at the time. There was an understanding that they would do a collaboration. However, Jaclyn kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off in favour of Morphe's collaborations. And the problem is that essentially Marlena had gotten in like $1 million worth of stock, as in a million at cost price. It would have been 4.5 million worth when sold, and she had bought all of these to sell on, but basically the collaboration fell apart. So she lost a whole chunk of money. She tried to sell on bits of these components like at a later point, but the damage was essentially done. Again, this is another brand that was faced with Corona, and it couldn't bring itself back, unfortunately. Now, I really would love to see this brand come back, and I've been seeing like Marlene is getting more and more active on social media. She's been on Reddit, if you know anything about that. But she also put a thing on Twitter where she was saying like the Makeup Geek website is back open and you can answer a questionnaire to see what direction you want to go in. And I was like, oh my God, does this mean this is coming back? Is Makeup Geek coming back? But all of the questions are around like how you could succeed as an influencer, like what makeup techniques you might like, etc. So it seems to be more about like a tips and tricks sort of a website than here are some makeup products. And I really feel like now would be the time for her to do that. I feel like a lot of people would be behind Marlena for doing that. However, she does have a young child and she seems very, very content with that aspect of her life and kind of focusing on that. So I'm probably being really selfish, but I would love to see Makeup Geek make a very triumphant return. It's very bittersweet when they went, and it's definitely one of those brands I would love to have a resurrection. So I recorded that video about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and I feel like maybe I manifested things because some things have actually changed since I filmed, including my background. I'm in a whole new place. But I have some updates on Makeup Geek. Yeah, believe it or not, I was watching, it's very easy to believe. I was watching the sesh and they had on Marlene Estelle, and she said that yes, Makeup Geek is doing like a Makeup Geek Academy where you can learn like makeup tricks, etc. and know how to do makeup specifically for your face. Like it'll be tailored for you. You can get one-to-one sessions, which is very, very cool. But she did kind of say that she's coming out with a new makeup brand. So although Makeup Geek itself is not coming back in a makeup-y brand way, it looks like we'll be getting a new makeup brand, quite possibly. So again, you can thank me, internet, because I sat down and filmed this. This next one, if I'm 100% honest, I never tried anything from it. So my wish on it returning is out of sheer FOMO. I know, I am so sad. But the thing is, everyone used to talk about their particular bronzer and think, oh my God, it was amazing. And when they went out of business, people went and like stocked up on this bronzer. And I don't know why I'm so like kind of obsessed on that, because I don't wear bronzer that often. But like when somebody's that passionate about a particular product, it does make me kind of go, excuse me, sir, what are you talking about? This was Marc Jacobs. Now, Marc Jacobs is obviously known for like handbags, designer fashion, really nice, fancy perfumes. Actually, one of their perfumes is the one that I wore on my wedding day. I really like Marc Jacobs in general, but apparently their bronzers, etc. were like a really big fave. I don't know anything else about their makeup line, but I feel like there's enough people talking about it or who have talked about it that if they brought that back, I remember even like some drama channel talking about it and how they really liked it at the time that it closed, so they were shocked to see that it went. I'd kind of love to see that coming back. Not that I can afford it. I don't know why I'm even saying this. Like, I like to think I'm a bougie bee, but then I'll probably see the price and be like, oh my God, it's $80 for a bronzer. What are you talking about, sir? But there's part of me that wants to go in and swatch it and be like, oh, is this what they're all talking about? You know, it's like, it's definitely a FOMO. I missed out on it and now I'm semi-interested in it. And the thing is, if Marc Jacobs opened in the morning, I probably would mosey on down and check out these bronzers along with a couple of other things, and I might even buy it. Who even am I? Do I want to be bronzed? I don't know. It's a very confusing situation for me. But it's mostly just a sheer FOMO. I'm so bad for that sort of thing. Like, I look back on like past editions of palettes that were limited edition and I just feel this heart-wrenching, oh, I missed that and I can't ever have it. And it's like, Teresa, it's not that big a deal. But for me, I'd just like to know what it was like. I mean, if people are stockpiling it, it must have been good, right? And actually, I have a little bit of an update on this one as well, because I thought Marc Jacobs Beauty was dead, done for, gone, but it seems, according to Net-a-Porter, which by the way I got the information from Makeup Release Radar, that they are bringing Marc Jacobs Beauty to their site, which is really interesting. So it begs the question, is Marc Jacobs Beauty coming back as they were, or is this a rebrand? So like I said, like, that's two brands that I talked about in this video that have actually made a sort of a comeback since I filmed initially. So keep your eyes peeled. Who knows? I may have manifested this. This may have occurred due to me because I am that egotistical. But back to the rest of the video. You knew that I was going to talk about this next brand. How could you talk about brands that no longer exist without talking about this one? Started off as an Australian beauty brand, and they were very into like the beach aesthetic. Yeah, you know I'm talking about Becca, right? They came to fame with their highlighters. This is again where I'm mentioning Jaclyn Hill in a really strange way, but again, it's just because she was a big influencer at the time. And one of their biggest products at the time was actually a collaboration between her and obviously Becca, and it was the Champagne Pop. Now the problem was, because it was such a big collaboration, they just kind of went Champagne Pop, and did it for absolutely everything. They absolutely loved it. And I think it's really kind of sad that it went as a brand, because I do feel like their products were really, really good. Their highlighters were really good quality. Their brightening under eye, like it was sort of like a concealer, that was really, really nice. They had some really nice products as well. I remember they did a collaboration with, was it Chrissy Teigen? I don't know, I could be wrong, but they came out with some lipsticks, and I remember getting a red bullet lipstick and really quite liking the formula of that. Again, this is another brand that come COVID, it just really struggled. People didn't want to buy highlighter anymore. And the problem with essentially having highlighter as being like your big, big thing is it's very difficult to pan a highlighter. It is, particularly if you're like makeup obsessed and you have like a lot of highlighters. Don't look at me, like that's not me. I don't have a lot of highlighters. Depends on what you mean by a lot of highlighters. It was a pity that they didn't kind of diversify a little bit further, but I know that there are still people who really, really miss Becca. Now, it did get subsumed kind of under Smashbox, but there was a whole thing around that, and I know quite a few people even missed the original Becca components. You can still go down to TK Maxx or TJ Maxx or Marshalls or wherever you are now, and you can still find a few Becca goodies. It's really strange. It's like a remnant of the past, but I kind of love to see that coming back, because it does remind me of the good old days, as if there's ever such a thing as a good old day. And the very last one I'm actually going to talk about is related to Becca, because as I said, Becca became subsumed under Smashbox, and this is a little bit of a cheat one for me, because Smashbox does technically still exist. It does, right? But here's the annoying thing. It was about maybe a year and a half ago, they came to like Beauty Bay. They had been sold in Boots, etc. You could get them there, and I will say I really liked their primers, I really liked their lipsticks, their eyeshadow palettes I thought were just pointless. Hated them. I thought they were just overpriced and totally uninteresting. Yeah, sometimes I'm a little bit too honest, and that's a little bit of a problem. But I did think they had some really, really solid products, and it was really strange because they were on Beauty Bay for maybe 4 to 6 months. I could be wrong. Don't like come for me for not getting my facts 100% straight. This is a narrative, but they were there for a very short period of time, and then they announced, we're no longer selling in Europe. Hold up. So here's the thing. I'm from Mayo, in case you can't get that from my very strange accent. Mayo is a county in Ireland, very west. And whenever I would go into my Boots, the first thing that I would see on my right hand side in Castlebar in the Boots shop there was a big Smashbox counter. And one thing you should know about me is I don't like change. It's a really fun autism quirk, and I still find it really upsetting now when I go into that Boots and I don't see Smashbox there anymore, and they have a whole number 7 kind of an outlet, and I'm like, no, you're not meant to be here, it's meant to be Smashbox. I feel it really sucked that they obviously took on Becca hoping that it would kind of bulk up their sales a little bit in that, and it was kind of smart in the sense that Smashbox weren't known for highlighters. They took on somebody who was known for highlighters, but I think they needed to extend well beyond that because they needed to get like foundation, concealer, you know, the stuff that like people will repurchase. Neither of them really had stuff that you would come back and repurchase time and time again. And it was just really sad because people had that moment of kind of going, oh my God, we can get Becca Products again. Yay! No, you can't. Not unless you're in the US. So I know a lot of people absolutely love their primers, and now you just can't get them anymore. Not in the UK, not in Ireland. So unless you're willing to hop on a plane and go over to New York, it just ain't gonna happen. And I think that really sucks. Like for me, again, they were there very early on in my makeup journey. I remember getting a lot of like really bright lipsticks. I think I even have like a couple of their lip liners because I'm gross and I keep things because I'm not an MUA. I don't have to make sure that everything is in, you know, date. It's only going on to my face. Who cares? But I would love to see Smashbox coming back to Ireland, to the UK, to the rest of Europe. I think it'd be really fun, and I do kind of miss it. Again, I think this might be a FOMO thing of me kind of going, come back Smashbox, I'll use up your primer, please come back. But my gorgeous friends, that's it. Those are the makeup brands that I really wish would make a comeback. I quite miss them, whether it's down to, you know, sentimental aspects or down to sheer FOMO. I wish they would come back. Are there any beauty brands that you wish would come back? Did I hit on any of the ones that you thought of? Let me know what you think. But my gorgeous friends, that's it. That's the end of the video. Do please like, comment and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. And do please share, because sharing is caring, except of course for STDs, in which case, just wrap it up. Don't be gross. But that's it. That's the end of the video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.